Some of the flurries out there from him tonight reminded me of his teammate who came off the bench a little bit. It's pretty remarkable to see the similarities with both the on and off ball stuff. Jordan has had a pretty good apprenticeship, learning from Steph.
Wiggins got 3 seconds to get a shot off. They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Wiggins to Poole. Poole gets it off in time. Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry! They count it as the buzzer sound. Curry with 0.6 of a second remaining.
The rest of the NBA has just woken up to its worst nightmare.
You can't leave Wiggins. You can't leave Poole. You can't leave all the guys that they've had on that roster.
Honey, see you looking at me.
Worldwide stunner, oh man, I'm a rain on the game, making storm and thunder.
I'm ready to go in.
With Steph Curry's shot making in the offense,
Grab an umbrella, bitch, and go stand under. And bundle up, it's gonna be a cold last summer.
I'm gonna give it all to you, baby. Swear it on. Hustle.
On to the new, on to the new shit. Jigga wouldn't even take my CD when he see me 2 years later, bitch, we made it on to the blueprint.
The league's deadliest offensive weapon, who's also become a formidable force on defense in Stephen Curry, was just cloned by the Golden State Warriors. And there's not a damn thing anyone could do about it. I still can't believe the league even let this happen. In the Curry era of basketball, more popularly known as modern NBA basketball, a few players come to mind when you hear the term unguardable. While these players have a true claim to the moniker and are essentially unstoppable when it comes to making their presence felt on the court, not all unguardables were created equally. Steph Curry is one of one, and never in the history of the NBA has his abilities been even remotely duplicated, and up until even last year, the future wasn't looking too bright either. While it would be somewhat premature to say definitively we've got the second coming of Steph Curry, it would be just as foolish to dismiss the premise. After all, every NBA player, regardless of player comps, is going to be different in some way or another. Fast forward to the 2022 NBA season, and no, your eyes do not deceive you, as this is the last thing 22 other general managers were hoping to see after the 2019 NBA draft. Those very same moves you see being performed by the Warriors' number 28th pick of that year, Jordan Poole, are exactly the same moves and routes run by the best player on the planet, Stephen Curry. For the remaining franchises in the league who had an opportunity to draft Poole and did not do so, this is a nightmare come true. If you guys recall, after Poole finished up his sophomore season with the Wolverines, he was still not considered to be ready for the NBA in some basketball circles. They thought he needed a ton of work which the Warriors knew he needed well in advance. What the Warriors did see, however, was a player that could shoot with the likes of the Splash Brothers, and this was an opportunity they just could not pass up. This was the first clue as to what the Dubs hoped to achieve with the newest Splash recruit. The first two picks in the 2019 draft were considered to be set in stone, with Zion Williamson in first and Ja Morant in second. The rest of the draft was considered weak, and it has become apparent to the rest of the league 3 years later exactly why it seemed that way. At least 3 publications recently did a 2019 NBA redraft, as they do every so often, and the results are shocking. Zion Williamson, having played only 85 total games in his career, somehow still snagged the number 1 spot. His talent is undeniable for sure, but considering what some of the rest of these players have accomplished, it's 50-50 for me whether or not the Pelicans would select Big Z in a redraft. Morant reclaims his spot at number 2 as he's lived up to the hype in every way the Grizzlies imagined. Beyond that though is where things shake up a bit, as both RJ Barrett, drafted 3rd, and DeAndre Hunter, who was drafted 4th, have fallen out of the top 5. At least with the Bleacher Report redraft, Hunter is not even in the top 10. Coming in at 3 is Darius Garland, who jumped 2 places, and at number 4 is yours truly, Jordan Poole. Am I seeing this correctly? Jordan Poole just jumped 24 spots in the 2019 NBA redraft? And the Warriors have done it again! A bona fide lottery pick in Jordan Poole selected at the end of the first round. For the Warriors, this is great news. For the rest of the league, this is pain. Now, with Poole outperforming his peers in his first few years in the league to the tune of, let's say, only 2 active players that can be considered better in his draft class, this is only the beginning. Now, some of you are wondering why I said 2 when there are clearly still 3 players listed ahead of Poole in any one of the redrafts. Besides the redraft being subjective, I consider Zion Williamson a wild card with only 85 games played, and seeing that his new contract with the Pelicans includes a weight clause, his ranking comes with an asterisk. I have serious concerns of whether or not his value would be considered that much beyond Poole's. The best ability is availability, and all the potential in the world isn't going to help your team if you're wearing street clothes on game night. If you're a Lakers fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Although we could see a nasty swing one way or the other if and when he does return to the floor. With this sort of recognition for Poole, however, the level of talent is quite obvious at this point. The fact that there are rumors circulating that the Warriors may have to move on from Wiggins' contract says more about Poole than it does about the organization or even Wiggins himself.
From what I understand, there's like no intention of losing Jordan Poole. They're going to try everything they can to retain him.
I can't see them letting him go. Like, you know, they would bite the bullet on that.
Wiggins is a former number 1 pick and played himself into getting a bag with 1 year remaining on his contract by averaging 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists in the 2022 playoffs while locking down Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic. I can't emphasize enough how important that was to the Warriors winning the chip. Despite playing that well, Poole was still able to hold his own and stake a claim for a bag in his own right, averaging 17 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds during the same period, while hitting clutch momentum-shifting buckets from deep for the Dubs during the finals. Considering this was his first playoffs, as well as the fact that this kid was playing with G League talent the prior season, this is pretty impressive. This alone still won't be cause to celebrate the second coming of Stephen Curry, however, and as such, there's still more to go. Back in May of 2022, Steve Kerr had an interview with the Insiders where he discusses some things he's noticed with Jordan Poole, essentially saying he has to remind Jordan Poole that he isn't Stephen Curry. Whether this is good or bad remains to be seen, but Kerr says, and I quote, "I give him little hints all the time, and things that I wouldn't say to Steph about shot selection, I will say to Jordan because Jordan hasn't earned that yet. In his 3rd year, his 3-point percentage isn't what Steph's is, and so without trying to thwart him and keep him from being himself, I'm trying to nudge him toward really high percentage shot taking rather than emulating Steph. That's a dangerous game, emulating Steph." Well, Steve, doesn't help if he's running the same place as Steph. I'm thinking you might just have to deal with it eventually. With that said, Poole's 3-point percentage at the 3rd year mark is 10 points lower than Curry's at the same point in his career at 34%. This isn't entirely a fair comparison though, as Poole really struggled in year 1, hitting just 28% from deep. Another factor is that Poole was drafted at 20 years old, whereas Curry was drafted when he was 21, although it still wouldn't matter if we didn't consider his first year. That's because Poole followed that up with shooting 35% from deep in 2021 and 36% this past year. For the playoffs, however, that shot up to 39%, which is a dominant showing considering these circumstances, including a high volume of 5.8 attempts per game in 28 minutes on the floor. It's always tempting to compare players year by year, but every player has a unique development trajectory. Speaking of the playoffs, the Warriors played their first series against Denver, where Poole in his first playoff game went off for 30 points, hitting over 55% of his shots while making at least 4 threes in a double-digit win. Great game by Poole, except it's eerie similar to that time when Steph Curry in his first playoff game went off at 30 points, hitting over 55% of his shots while making at least 4 threes in a double-digit win against, you guessed it, the Denver Nuggets. Just prior to that, however, when Curry went down near the end of the regular season, a big question mark came up regarding Poole. Starting next to Curry earlier in the season turned out to be a breeze for the 3rd-year player. He excelled in the 2-guard spot and was more than the team could have hoped for. This time, he was tasked with replacing Curry next to Klay Thompson. While no one could feasibly expect Poole to fill Curry's shoes, there was no one better placed on the roster to fill in for him while he was injured. The Warriors went 6-7 for the last 13 games of the season, including the one in Boston where Marcus Smart took out Steph Curry. In 8 of those games, Poole had the team high in points with a 38-point explosion versus Phoenix, where the Warriors narrowly lost by 4 points. He then led the team in assists for 5 of those games while playing next to Draymond. During this period, Poole averaged 26 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, while shooting 38% from 3 on a ridiculous 11 plus attempts per game. Only one other player shot more than 11 attempts per game for the entire season. That would be the Finals MVP and 4-time champion, oh yeah, and the greatest shooter the planet has ever seen, Stephen Curry. This stretch of performance dwarfs the average of Poole's regular season performance and showed how he is adjusting to the pressures defenses are placing on him. Without Curry in the lineup, teams were taking the initiative and trying to make Poole lose his confidence and throw him off his game. If there's one thing Poole isn't lacking in, however, that would be confidence. There are even rumors out there that Poole is now beating Steph at half-court shots in practice. Hey, maybe the Warriors do know a thing or two about drafting players. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a wonderful problem on our hands. People are seriously underestimating what Jordan Poole is capable of doing. While his box scores didn't translate to as many wins as we would have liked, consider that Poole is only a third-year player still figuring out the NBA. He has the talent, he has the skills to succeed. It's all about putting it together and then putting in the work on the other end of the floor. He's just shown that without Steph Curry on the floor, he'll give you your 25-5-5. A lot of folks will see these numbers and still regurgitate simp narrative and tell you that this kid isn't capable of being a superstar in this league. Let me be the one to say a lot of these simps are unable to recognize potential, and even if they do, they have to stick to their talking points. They are not true media. 26-6-5 next to Clay and Wiggins, and his name isn't Stephen Curry? Don't believe the lies you're being fed out there. These teams are scouting Poole and applying the same pressure they did for Steph Curry. They know what time it is. The sad thing is they will keep underrating this team for years to come. But that's okay. If you guys want actual NBA takes and not force-fed narratives from biased ratings-driven sports TV, subscribe to Swish Culture. I might sound optimistic, but I'm a realist. This is why you guys that watch this channel weren't shocked when the Warriors won the championship. They all had us dogging out in the first series, but look at us now. Now they all acting surprised like they didn't see it coming. Alright, keep not seeing it coming. Be sure to hit that button and stay locked in. Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers, are about to
Rain on the game, make it storm and thunder. Grab an umbrella, bitch, and go stand under. And bundle up, it's gonna be a cold ass.
till next time.
King of the shit, talk word, I'm a player, the real player. I don't give a prayer, man, fuck a naysayer. I block so hard, sweetie get served. Call me Lonzo Ball, bitches get swerved.